You're sabotaging your healing if you think mutual silence equals a clean break. Research from Stanford University reveals that 68% of avoidant attachers don't actually process a relationship's death until the digital pulse stops entirely. I see this with my clients daily. They arrive exhausted, mistaking the silence for closure, while secretly checking their lock screen for a ghost that hasn't appeared. By the end, you'll understand the psychological warfare happening in both minds. Because this mutual silence isn't a funeral. It's a total transformation. It begins with a cold dark. Not a cinematic breakup with screaming matches. The surgical kind where the blue light just stops flickering. No more ritualistic thinking of you pings. No more sharing memes to bridge the gap. No more 2 a.m. conversations circling the same drain. The exhausting emotional gymnastics finally cease. At first, this feels like oxygen. But for both you and the avoidant, this isn't the finish line. It's a launch pad for a shift neither of you saw coming. When an avoidant retreats, it's a survival reflex. They view distance as a fortress against the threat of being known. Every avoidant learned early that intimacy is a trapdoor to pain. Perhaps a parent was a moving target, warm then icy. Perhaps they learned that crying was a solo sport. So now, they weaponize distance to stay safe. But when you mirror that silence, the math changes. A hairline fracture appears in that titanium wall. Initially, they feel bulletproof. The pressure to perform empathy vanishes. For 7 days, they ride a wave of relief. They bury themselves in work. They reconnect with safe friends. They might even hit the apps for a quick hit of validation. They call this freedom. But as the calendar turns, the silence starts to echo. The name that used to haunt their notifications is gone. The void they used to control is now controlling them. By day 10, they're compulsively checking their phone, wondering why the chase stopped. Not because they miss you, because they lost their anchor. Your pursuit was their safety net. It felt suffocating, sure, but it also felt permanent. They could run because they knew exactly where you were standing. But when you vanish too, the power dynamic collapses. They aren't free. They are just untethered. And that hits different. You're evolving, too. At first, the withdrawal is physical. Your thumb hovers over their contact card like a phantom limb. You draft paragraphs of why and delete them in tears. Your brain is starving for the dopamine hit of a single typing bubble. But then, the fog lifts. Around week 3, a terrifyingly beautiful calm settles in. You realize the passion you felt was actually just chronic anxiety. You see the massive cognitive load you carried trying to decode their riddles. The silence that felt like a sentence now feels like a sanctuary. You start excavating your personality. You remember the version of you that existed before you became a fixer. You resume the hobbies you shelved to stay available. You call friends and actually listen, instead of scanning for a notification. You realize you've been living in the crumbs of their attention. And now that you've stopped begging, there's suddenly room to breathe. The avoidant senses this energetic exit. They are hypersensitive to abandonment, even as they cause it. They act indifferent, but they are constantly scanning for your digital footprint. That invisible thread they use for eager reassurance has gone slack. They notice you stop viewing their stories. They hear through the grapevine that you look centered. This triggers their deepest primal fear, being genuinely forgotten. The fear that they finally pushed hard enough to break it. Now comes a curiosity phase. They'll view your story and stay silent. They'll like a post from 3 months ago at 3 a.m. They'll send a practical text about a lost hoodie or a Netflix password. Understand this. They don't want the hoodie. They want to see if the door still creaks when they kick it. These aren't apologies. They are temperature checks. They're asking, am I still a god in your world? Here's the trap. If you react with heat, they freeze. Your availability restores their safety, and they'll retreat again. But if you remain a black hole of indifference, they spiral. They start to wonder if they were ever important at all. Time is the ultimate truth teller. After months of no contact, the filters fall off. You see that you weren't in love. You were in a cycle. You were trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You recognize that you chose them because unavailable felt familiar. The silence gives you the laboratory space to study your own wounds. The avoidant finally feels a way to their own armor. Without you to blame for the pressure, they have to face the fact that they are the architect of their own loneliness. This is deactivation regret. The realization that they traded a diamond for a wool. They see the pattern of every relationship ending at the same roadblock. They realize they aren't independent. They are just isolated. Eventually, the ghost returns. A thinking of you text on a random Tuesday night. A casual comment after 6 months of radio silence. It's never a deep confession. It's a probe to see if the door is still unlocked. Why now? Because they hit rock bottom with their own patterns. Because they saw you thriving without them and it bruised their ego. Because time has blurred the fear and left only the fantasy. If you respond from a healed place, the magic is gone. Their charm feels like a script. Their hot and cold routine feels like a tired rerun. You see the breadcrumbing for what it is, a way to keep you on a leash without ever offering a home. You finally understand that love cannot survive where fear is the CEO. It wasn't that you weren't enough. It's that they weren't ready. The ultimate insane twist? When you stop reaching out, not as a strategy, but as an act of self-preservation, the avoidant finally feels the full weight of your absence. Your silence is louder than any argument. They can handle your anger. Anger is a form of attachment. They can handle your grief. Grief means they still matter. But your indifference, your genuine peace, that shatters their reality. It means they didn't just lose a partner. They lost the person who saw the best in them. In rare cases, this silence is a catalyst for their growth. They finally seek therapy. They finally look at the mother or father wound that created the armor. Your absence becomes a teacher they desperately needed. But you aren't there to witness the lesson. And that is exactly how it should be. For the rest, they just find a new distraction. They tell a story where you were too much to avoid feeling like they were too little. But the emptiness eventually finds them in the quiet moments. So when the phones go dark, the winner isn't the person who texts first. The winner is the person who finds themselves in the silence. It's about reclaiming your worth and realizing you deserve a love that doesn't require a map or magnifying glass. The moment you stop obsessing over their void and start filling your own life, you win. You take that massive energy you were using to manage them and you give it back to yourself. If you're in the quiet right now, trust it. Silence doesn't break connections. It exposes them. It shows you who is a permanent resident and who was just a tourist. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let the silence say everything you're tired of repeating.